Jim, calm down with those legs.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Holy where was the... Yeah! Hi, everyone. It's me, Mallow. You never met me before, because I stay off the camera and stuff. But not for these movie reviews that we're doing, because they're coming at you. This one did.
Right now.
It's right now. It's right now.
You put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah, look at it. It's right now.
That's better than my intros.
I promise I originally had something actually planned. Here's the very first ever salty movie review. Or SEFT, because it's easier to coin that term.
Yeah. He's also our social media / marketing guy.
Hiya.
I like how you added marketing on the back.
He pretty much
I'll
has
take any title they give me.
Fair enough.
I just eat
Most.
him up.
Never mind.
What movie are we reviewing today?
Oh yeah, we were doing a movie review.
Oh shit.
Oh, yay.
A movie review, and today, my choice of film, I forced everyone to watch Bumblebee 2018. Transformers.
Twice.
Twice. Why
Jane?
twice? Because I'm a film student, and it is my belief that one cannot form an official opinion on a film without seeing it at least more than once.
So put these down.
Kind of like a writing prompt, but not as in depth. I make sure that everyone kind of can look out some general discussion points while watching the film. And my first one is there anything in the movie, good or bad, that surprised you? I mean, that could be used for any movie, but starting out, we go with Dice.
Okay. So I guess the biggest thing that surprised me is it's an avid known thing about me is I am not a fan of John Cena, especially his acting in any way. John Cena was fantastic in this movie. I think having him as the comedic relief is the best role for him. I didn't care about the soldier part of him. The hilarity in every scene he provided was great.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jack.
I had a similar note because I, kind of was just like, okay, he's going to be in the movie and it'll be okay. It's fucking hilarious. No better time than now to bring up There's a Door in My Way, which to me,
There's a door in my way.
is just the best line.
Oh, it's such a good line.
That and when he calls out the Decepticons, he's just like, literally, deception in their name, not raising any red flags for anybody. And I was just like, thank you for literally being the audience voice here. Other good surprises for me were the CGI was done very tactfully.
Yes.
And I was very much appreciative of that, especially I've never seen them in full force, but I had seen clips and bits and pieces of the Michael Bay version, and it was really interesting. It also made my brain hurt to look at. I don't know. It looked like how a seizure feels, but that's
Brave.
I also really liked the soundtrack, and maybe this is kind of branching into another point later, but the 80s soundtrack was super appropriate without being the cliche kind of what we've come to expect when somebody says 80s music. It was very tasteful, original, and to the time. And there were a lot of things that this movie did that I did like. But I will pass over to somebody else because I talked for a long time.
You did, but that's
Good
okay.
job.
That's okay.
Rest that voice.
Well, we're going to go with Jane.
I think the thing that surprised me the most about the film was how unafraid it was to be funny. Like, especially coming off the back of the Michael Bay series of Transformers, where everything was always serious and always exploding, and everything is always...
And might I add, inappropriately funny.
Funny for the wrong reasons for the Michael Bay films.
Yes.
Like, this movie was unapologetically hilarious. The fucking scene where they TP the girl's house and Bumblebee just starts absolutely... Me and my wife were laughing our asses off last night at 1 a.m. watching this film. It was amazing to watch. It was amazing to see a film just like...
I want to quickly add, if you haven't, I'm sure most viewers have, if you watch an original Michael Bay Transformers movie, most jokes are either they're racist or it involves a small Transformer humping a girl's leg. So, you go that to Bumblebee.
I never
It's
watched
so
them,
much better.
So that's weird.
Yeah. And Chia.
Okay, there are two things that really stick out that surprised me more than anything. One was pleasant surprise, and the other one was just raw, like,
Dog.
unfiltered, unfiltered, like, surprise. The first thing was there was a character in the movie that I hated originally, but as the movie progressed, I started to realize the reason why I hated this character was because he was portrayed so well, and it was Charlie's brother, Otis. Mm-hmm. It was like, when you start the movie, he's really irritating, and he's loud, and it just, like, serves no purpose almost. But then, it's like, in the 80s, that's kind of how young boys were. They just were loud and wanted to do karate, and they wanted to get their siblings in trouble, and they would be bought off for literally anything. In this movie, it was a secret. Anything that's not boring, just, I'm on board. You're my sister. Like, I thought he was written very well because he was annoying. The second thing that surprised me is the mood whiplash in this movie is fucking incredible. You literally go from... There's a part where they have a scene with Charlie finding the yellow bug for the first time. And she flips on the radio and transmissions start going out. And it shows you where the transmissions are going. And it's this nice, wholesome scene. And then you get fucking the two main Decepticons torturing an Autobot for information, beating him within an inch of his life, and then cutting him in half in front of the camera.
Spoiler warnings.
Then we go right back into it.
It's a movie review. There's spoilers.
Just segue right back into, teenager, get that first car. Be a woman. Be a real woman. Be a real woman. Don't worry about the torture. Forget about it.
She don't know about it yet.
That guy wasn't just cut from twink to twanium.
Okay, I'm going to cede the rest of my time
Xander.
to Xander.
All right. Couple of things that pleasantly surprised me. I was... well, Jack already made the point. The CGI was... I feel like it was phenomenal as far as, like, atmospheric, environmental, like, lighting, reflections, and things like that on point. Anything that the Transformers had taken form of, they had their own little... they had their own designs on Optimus Prime World.
Cybertron.
That's the one, Cybertron. And Optimus Prime World. We're gonna make that amusement park.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would love that.
You just drive tractor trailers all day.
Yes, but they had their own designs. They come to Earth. It's the '80s. Bumblebee had this cool, like, futuristic. I don't know what it was, like a Camaro, because he's a Camaro. He comes to Earth 80s. He's a Volkswagen Beetle, and when he transforms back into his, like, two-legged standy-up form, he has all those features on him, not like he did before, and then for all the other ones as well. I thought it was amazing. Very well done.
Attention to detail on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just going to remember when dealing with Transformers, you got car forms and standy-up form. That's where they fight.
Point in that one, too. The other one was that there were such extreme connections to just the humanity of the characters alone, whether they were the Autobots or Decepticons or the humans on Earth. It definitely humanized everything and connected on many different emotional levels, from family turmoil to family love to the girl just going through everything where she's Charlie, her name. I remember that one. She was, she's down and then she's happy and then she's down again. But, like, I felt it with her and I was like, holy crap. Very well done. Very well directed.
That girl deserves some kind of acting award.
She's already gotten many, actually.
Good, because
Haley Steinfeld. She's very popular right now.
This might be. I think this is the first thing I've ever seen her in, but she was an amazing actress.
Just emotional acting. I think
my God.
You brought it up at one point that it is extremely hard to just emote to a empty room, which is basically all the garage scenes I'm sure were in production were just her in an empty ass garage just
looking
pouring
at a
her
car.
heart out to absolutely fucking nobody.
Well, she still did it. She was a real woman.
Yeah,
real
she
warm.
convinced me in that scene. Like, I didn't care about the father's death for the whole part of that movie until that scene happened, and I was like, all right, okay, I see it now. I see the connection. Okay, I get it.
If you've seen the Michael Bay films, would you agree that this one is leagues better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that one's
unanimously-
unanimous.
I have
I think
no
that's kind of
opinion. I've
unfair.
never seen it.
I don't.
This
know.
is the first media of Transformers I've ever seen.
I've
And
seen
not a
at
bad
least-
one to start with.
Not
I'll
a
tell
bad
you
one to start
I
on.
think I saw the first one, and I've seen more than half of another, and then lots of bits and pieces from some other ones. And honestly, yeah, just yeah.
I haven't seen any of the other ones. As far as I can tell, I like the design of the robots in this one. When I looked at the other ones, it just looked like a whole bunch of metal.
Yes.
And it was confusing to see like what was going on.
I think it's a point I brought up when we were
Yeah.
watching last night. Is how just distinct the Autobots and Decepticons are in design on this one, whereas in the other films it was more preoccupied with trying to be hip and cool and a mesh of metal instead of being iconic and
Yeah, and in this one specifically, I think somebody mentioned it, where like you can actually tell what's going on when they're transforming.
You can actually see like
The parts moving.
the windshield fold up and become the wings of the robot.
You
and
can see
stuff
the
like that.
engine like fold in and under and become
And then,
like
like,
the chest piece.
and mind you, this was produced by Michael Bay still, but it was not directed, thankfully.
Sorry.
And a lot of with Michael Bay's films with them is that, like, you clearly a design choice is Bumblebee's doors look like his wings, whereas in the Michael Bay film, like stuff like that would just like fold into the Transformers, and it would just disappear.
just-
you wouldn't
yeah.
question it because
Yeah.
but
It
there
was
wasn't
like,
as much attention to the detail because mind you, the Michael Bay films had way more Transformers than we got in this movie.
Oh yeah,
True.
they took fucking Mountain Dew, like seriously. No, they took like what is it, vending machines full of Mountain Dew, and they just made Decepticons out of them.
There was one movie where like the
What?
thing that brought these things to life was touching Earth technology, and it sort of affected. It was really dumb. It was
It
dumb.
was fucking stupid.
It was dumb.
Do you see now why I had such low expectations going into this?
Oh,
that
and I
shit was
did too.
horrid.
I mean, I really did too, and I don't because I just hated Transformers. Like, it's not that I hated them. I never got into Transformers. It was never my stick, and like I said yesterday, I never got into big robot things. So like Gundam was not my thing. Zoids were not my thing. So I just
well, you can go to hell.
it wasn't my appeal. And I didn't hate on people who did it, but when the Michael Bay films came out, the only thing I knew was there was a bunch of jokes about Shia LaBeouf now.
Oh yeah.
And there was explosions. And I knew I didn't care, so I kept going. But
Here's another fun fact: there was a part where fucking Shia LaBeouf's quote unquote mom has a talk about masturbating with him in one of the old ones.
Awkwardly, like I don't know, and she even does pot brownies when in the sequel when they go to move him on college campus.
Yo, wait,
she
this
gets
might be a lit
jobs.
movie. This might be a lit movie. Yo, hold up, I'm gonna judge too quick.
It's a Michael Bay film. It's big, dumb, and fun.
Hey, man.
I mean, look what he did to the Ninja Turtles.
And going off of that, this one in comparison is very heartfelt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You would never see a scene like Charlie in the garage pouring her heart out to Bumblebee in a completely Michael Bay directed film.
Nope.
It wouldn't happen.
That's fair. That's
we
fair.
would literally just half the movie would have been on Cybertron, maybe the later half or whatever, and a little bit at the beginning, and the whole fucking time on Earth, the Decepticons would have hit the ground. Everything would have fucking blown up. The whole movie would have been a fight
Which
scene
is-
from back to front.
Fun fact: with Bumblebee, the beginning of that movie and then the one flashback scene, that is more time we've spent on Cybertron and live action films than all of Michael Bay's films combined.
Huh.
Yeah, that's true.
Like in the movies that came before this, no time is spent on Cybertron.
You don't get to see Cybertron in those. It's all on Earth.
So number 3. I know this one was probably the most popular question amongst everyone, at least from what I understood. And so far, I've got to say, I think Jimmy came the closest to getting it.
Oh.
So number 3. This film does something a lot of action-oriented films aimed towards a younger audience, like Marvel movies, fail to do. I'm sorry, that's a weird way to word that. This movie succeeds in doing something that a lot of action-oriented movies today, like Marvel, fails to do. Perhaps you've picked up on it. That's to bring some order back. We'll go with Dice again.
I'm gonna go with murder and being able to kill. Dude, it's a PG-13 movie, and they just off humans because all they do is turn them into goo.
There's no blood.
There's no blood. There's
No,
no
God, you're
the
right.
only things you see die are humans that get turned into goop or Decepticons that are just freaking robots cut in half and stuff like that. So you get to see all these really cool things that kids want to see, at least in my opinion. And they get to be portrayed. You finally, that dude just blows up, and he's Goop though. So
It's amazing
Well,
how
it's
you
literally
do
the same goop effect as Men in Black.
Yeah, it is.
It's the same exact goop effect they used in that. That was what caught my eye about it immediately. I was like, oh, I've seen this movie.
I wish we could have had Rip Torn for this.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty sure Rip Torn played a Transformer in one of the Michael Bay films. John Goodman did, at least in 2 of the films.
Oh, that's.
Oh, we got to get John Goodman on the next movie.
Yeah.
we got to get John Goodman.
Go back to
Call
rock,
us,
gotta
bud.
find Megatron.
Oh, wow.
Give us a call, Joe.
And funny, sadly enough, he wasn't one of the Dinobots.
Oh,
Missed opportunity.
right.
Jim?
So the thing that I thought it did well with action movies trying to pertain to kids is that this was really a coming of age story to me. Not only for Charlie, but also for Bumblebee. In that, I mean, granted, you had the plot point of him losing his memory, but he grows so much with his time, with Charlie and through the experience of that they make a point of it at the end of the movie, which, obvious spoilers, but when him and Optimus Prime are talking out in the woods, and he says, B-127, and he says, my name is Bumblebee, he's grown. He has grown a lot as a character because of the events that happened.
You
And
see,
that's what I thought that it did really well.
You see, Ron? That's how arcs work.
Yep.
Ron. Oh, we'll get to Ron.
Oh, don't get me started on fucking Ron.
That's for another review.
Yeah, I don't know
There
if we
are
have the
problems.
strength to go into Ron right now.
Don't get me wrong. There are
Ron obviously
problems with
being
this
a
reviews.
character from Bumblebee. I think you're on the right path, Jim. On that,
Jack,
sorry, Jack.
Edit that out.
edit back in.
Jack. Don't you come back no more.
Jackie Jack
All
and the
right,
heart attacks.
Jane.
For me, are we talking about specifically as it pertains to kids or just?
No, it's just-
okay, cool. I heard him say to
Well,
kids.
That's
the
what
way
he-
it's worded.
Okay, cool.
That's the way
The
it's worded.
thing that got to me about this movie specifically was the nostalgia factor. It is something that I haven't seen. Granted, I'm not a big Marvel fan, so I haven't seen a lot of the Avengers.
Oh, you can go to hell too.
But I have seen a few of them, and one thing that I don't get is that feeling of when I saw the heroes when I was a kid. You know, I watched the cartoons, I read the comic books. There were these really big figures back in the day, and when I go and see the new Thor, I don't feel that way. It's this big, flashy Hollywood movie, but it doesn't really ring in like how I felt as a child. When from the not the opening shot, but when I saw Optimus Prime roll out and like transform from car form to standy uppy form. One thing I thought was, oh my god, that thing folds up exactly like the toy that I had when I was a kid. I can see it. It's just like that. The second thing was, oh my god, it looks so similar. Like, kind of like we were saying before, Michael Bay really liked these like intricate folding scale metal bullshit. And it looked really intricate, but you didn't really get to see anything. It just looked flashy. When Optimus Prime transformed, it was a much simpler design. And when I saw it, I was like, that looks exactly like I remember him when I was a kid watching the cartoons. And then it happened with Bumblebee. Granted, I don't think I remember seeing any of the other Transformers from my childhood in the movie, but like those two specifically, when I saw them, it struck a chord in me. And then kind of piggybacking off of what Jeff said, or I'm sorry, cut that out. What Jack said. As soon as the nostalgia factor hit, and then the heartwarming story came, and I was like, it makes me feel like I'm a child watching a superhero movie. That's what got to me.
There's your superheroes. We found your superheroes.
That's a very
They're Transformers.
That's one of the things I commented on last night was that how cool it is that when they're on Cybertron, not all of them, because clearly Bumblebee it's not, but so many of the Transformers had their original 80s cartoon design, and it was really cool to see that on live action screen. So
The dude with the dog out of his chest. I do remember that.
Yeah, that was cool.
Soundwave.
I
That was
remember
such a big thing for his toy.
Yeah, I
believe.
remember that in his
Having
story. My
it-
cousin had that.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
so the fact that they brought that in and Soundwave he looks like a cassette tape because that was 80s and,
Yeah.
and but it wasn't campy and they didn't ruin it. It was like it was like that. He's the Soundwave.
I love it.
Yeah, I forget the one who was really cool. He speaks, but he doesn't have a mouth. It was like
It's not Starscream, is it?
No, Starscream is not in this
No.
movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I didn't
but
think so.
The one who was like purple and he was like a sniper. And he had like the one yellow eye. You know what I mean?
yeah,
he was
he
in
has
there for
the
like a few
two-
seconds each.
He sounded
But,
like he was going through a talk box.
Yeah, and he was one of the 80s ones. It was nice to see him. All right, yeah, Chia.
Okay, I want to go off of what Jack was saying a little bit, like how at the forefront this movie is not some over the top like crazy action adventure movie. At the first like 50 minutes of this film, other than the small cuts we get to Cybertron or the Decepticons landing on Earth or whatever, it is 100% a coming of age movie, which was huge in like the mid 90s to like late 80s and everything. When you had like when you had a wholesome family movie, it was usually about like a teenager or a kid coming of age and starting to realize more about themselves. But this movie does something a little different. I feel like this movie is blatantly reversing the gender roles of those old movies. Like, usually, if you would have a movie like this back in the 80s or 90s, it would be about a young boy finding themselves through, their adventures or just, like, learning through their family, like, about how your family can basically fight against you, but you're still there for each other. But it changes the gender. Like, the main character is Charlie. It's a girl, and they don't play her up to any kind of female-specific gender tropes. They just play her like a boy.
They tried to once with a book called Smile More. That is one specific note I have.
That's an extension of Ron's character, right? He's just an idiot.
Fuck Ron.
Smile More. Get the fuck out of here with that condescending dumbass BS. Have more friends. Motherfucker, have more tact.
Yeah.
Oh, god damn it.
Oh, I love that.
Now, here's another thing that made me look towards that. There is another character in this. Menno?
Memo?
Memo?
Menno Knight.
Mimo? Whatever. But,
Finding Mimo.
basically, like, this movie, like, those old coming-of-age stories would also have some kind of, like, romantic subplot where it's, like, this boy's first love or something like that. And they kind of play with that a little bit in this film, but it's reversed. It's the boy is trying to get the girl's attention, and whenever he fails at that, he's just off screen until he's needed for that romantic tension again. Maybe a little bit later on, he becomes a little bit more relevant. But that's kind of what you used to see in like mid-90s like coming of age films. It would just be there's a girl that doesn't exist until romantic tension is needed, and she just kind of fucks off until the next scene that she's relevant. I'm serious. Yeah, like
I mean, you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong.
No, you're not wrong. You bring up very good points.
Yeah,
and
you do.
It just goes to show that, like, you can have a girl protagonist in her teens and it still be just as good of a movie as if it was just a boy.
I agree with you, and I didn't realize that until you've mentioned it. Not once did it ever occur to me, oh my god, this is a girl instead of a boy. I think, if you know what I mean.
You were just watching a character.
It was such an enjoyable character.
You were watching a person.
You went on her journey with her, and it was...
There's a scene that we saw...
The gender didn't matter.
Yeah, the characters are relatable regardless.
Exactly.
As a film student, that's usually one of the things I immediately, not me, but a lot of us at Point Park will go to, is that kind of stuff. Like, oh, well, was it a boy, a girl? So it's interesting that it didn't dawn on me. It never questioned it.
Yeah, and whenever you think about it a little bit, like, there's a scene where they are driving in the bug, and she wants to, like, blindfold herself. So she's like, take your shirt off. That is definitely something in, like, a mid-90s, like, preteen or teenage film that they would have the girl do because of over-sexuality or whatever. They'd be like, oh, like, we're gonna go swimming. Oh, like, she's gonna take her top off and she'd be, like, in her bra or whatever. They just did it to the other romantic interest. It's just that he's a male and you can show his whole chest.
You had a sweet six-pack, though.
He was pretty ripped.
Let's not honest. That dude had muscles.
That's the only good thing about
Swole
Memo
toe.
is that dude
Hey,
is...
Jack, what was that note you had?
Nemo's rip?
But that's my point, is that, like, there are tropes in this specifically created to emulate those old coming-of-age tropes, but they are completely
Turned on
gender
their head.
reversed.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it any weirder. It doesn't make it strange. It's just that old 80s, 90s vibe of teenagers figuring out who they are and that they can actually care about someone in a romantic sense.
All right. Well, that's all my points as well.
Really?
Pretty much.
Am I going to hell too?
Yeah. 'Cause I'm dragging you there with me.
Jesus Christ.
No, I You did make a lot of points. I mean,
A lot of them.
It was a lot. A lot of it was
lot of them.
So Sandra's like, I want to start first next because everybody says everything I'm
Right.
gonna say, and I don't
No,
get to say shit.
Oh wait, the next.
We can start reverse
I think
next time.
I think the next one. Yeah, I do want to start first. Anyway, but yeah, I do agree with Chia on a lot of those points. I know I'm gonna just be sounding like a broken record here, but it was like, okay, this is a strong female lead this time, where you're expecting more like, oh, boy is gonna be strong and awesome and fight robots with his robot friend now. It was like, no, she was still human. She was still essentially practically powerless until she's like, you know what, I gotta do this thing, take that thing out of the tower. You know, she did it. But there wasn't
Spoilers.
the one thing.
Repercussions for that?
Yeah.
There wasn't repercussions for what she did.
No. But I mean, she. One thing that I did really notice, though, that there wasn't, even though there was that like love romantic interest character, it wasn't strong. It wasn't surrounding that. So that's what I liked. You had that female lead who's becoming herself, growing, getting, you know, just growing up. Period. We follow her through that, but she's not focused on love like they have a lot of characters do. Yes, I see you over there, Elsa. You can calm down. But I found that really interesting because they weren't really focused on it. They shared a kiss. She kissed him on his cheek. That was it.
Still a kiss.
That's all.
Still a kiss.
Still a kiss. Still counts.
Still a kiss.
Says Mimo, the ripped nerd.
Finding
But yeah,
Memo.
that's one thing that I pointed out. Like they didn't focus on love as part of growth, as much. You know?
And I
They
think,
didn't focus on romantic love.
yeah, and I think that's important because a lot of the movies that will try to do plots like this, they lean so heavily on the romantic side of the story, almost as a crutch, in a way. And this movie
it's
didn't
so
do that
easy
at
as
all.
a writer to do that.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
You
Movies write
what I
themselves.
learned in school
Yeah.
is one of the best ways to write a script is to show restraint, and they do that. I think they find the balance where at the end they keep the relationship open to the possibility, but it was never about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though he was like, I'm going to ask you out, it quickly became we're spending time together because we're spending time, like we enjoy each other.
Right.
There's no
We have this
nothing
common
was
ground.
called into question.
We have this common ground of knowledge of something that's like crazy, and that's why we end up doing this. Not
And I
because
think-
we're so enthralled with each other that overlaps the whole story.
I think I said last night. I think the importance of his character is like Bumblebee. Obviously, is a catalyst for her character development, but big giant robot. Memo is there to be the human connection.
Right.
Like Memo really, Bumblebee's end of the movie. Bumblebee's gone. Parents seem to be fixed magically, but I really doubt that it is, and I'm willing to bet that there's still room for growth. But she still has Memo at the end of it all, who shared those experiences.
Yeah.
He's still with her. Yeah.
But did we get it right? Did any of us get it right?
None of you got it wrong, because you all made valid or just at least entertaining
With everybody's
points.
wholesome answers, I'm really upset that I went
Except
first
yours.
and mine was murder.
Everyone
still
made
win.
good points, but it wasn't what I was looking for specifically, which
So-
isn't a bad thing because Getty's thing enlightened me a bit even. But what I was looking at was that what so many family or action oriented films fail to do today is so often they ruin the heartfelt moments with laughter. It's like they are not confident in their writing skills, or they don't trust the audience enough to handle
You're
a
right.
heartfelt moment.
No, right.
that
Thinking of
it is
every
quickly
Marvel movie.
ruined.
Yeah.
It is quickly ruined by a laugh line.
Yeah.
The raccoon walking in on Gamora and
Yeah.
it's exactly that.
That's why I use Marvel, because Marvel comes to mind with that.
Yep.
They don't trust the audience. Bumblebee, and Jane said there's so many funny moments, but Bumblebee allows heartfelt moments to be heartfelt moments without interruption. And a lot of writers today don't do that. And that stuck out to me the very first time I watched it. When Charlie's alone with Bumblebee in the garage and they're hugging each other and they're having those tender moments, I'm expecting something dumb to happen because
Yeah.
I have been programmed now when I watch these movies not to trust the writers to allow. And I was so pleasantly surprised that this movie allows heartfelt moments to be heartfelt moments, and that was one of the first things I picked up on.
Pointing it
And I
out
was
like
wondering,
that
yeah.
like, makes the garage scene even freaking better for me, because they do all the funny bits before the serious moment kicks in, and then when the serious moment kicks in, that's
It's
it.
allowed to
it's
be.
like
That's
they get it out of
it.
their
It's quiet.
system.
I think the one scene ends where they don't. She's not even speaking to Bumblebee anymore. They are just
They're hugging.
hugging,
And
then it ends.
that's
A lot, you know what? You
Conrad,
pointed out
yeah,
there
that's
would be
good.
a lot of modern directors at this point. They would have saved the scene where he ejects the tape out of his chest until they get to the point where she's talking about her dad. And the minute that the director or the writer thought that that got a little too heavy, they would have the radio start playing, and then he would eject it, and she'd be like, "Oh, well, I guess we're talking about this now," just to get away from that.
Yeah.
What the writer or director might see as like awkward tension or silence. It's unnecessary, but that's real fucking life.
If I could go
Right.
out on a limb here, I would say that shying away from those moments in modern films that we've seen a lot, and not even just Marvel, I've
No,
seen it in
so
other
many.
films. The fact that that movie didn't shy away, that is the authenticity that we want to see more of.
And I think it's so important, especially for this being a film aimed towards kids, that it does allow those moments to happen. That to me, that is the most important aspect of this film, is that it's not worried about making the kids laugh all the time. It lets the kids know these emotions exist. We don't have to distract from that. Number 4. Would you be interested in seeing more from the Transformers after this iteration?
Yes.
Oh, that's not what I wanted to start on.
I'll let you start. You know, they had
That's a
two,
one-word
you'll get
answer,
two.
baby.
yeah, it's just
No, I mean,
Ooh.
I mean, it's fair.
I wasn't really interested in the first place. I do love what they did with this one. Maybe if it's the same director, I would love to see how it goes. But I wouldn't think myself of going, oh yes,
Yeah.
oh yes, a Transformer movie's coming out. I gotta go. I'd be like, oh okay, well maybe when it comes out somewhere else.
Hulu.
I will say that I just want to throw this out there. Originally, like whenever I was formulating my opinion about this movie, the first watch of it, I fucking hated it. I thought that this movie was terrible garbage. Like, it was the second one that actually made me enjoy it a little bit better. That being said, I probably wouldn't seek it out. Like, I it would make me like go to the theater and like crave a new Transformers movie, but I would be much more open to the idea of going and seeing it if like someone else wanted to go to the movies or something.
Fair.
That's fair.
Like, yeah, it would not be an unpleasant experience to at least try out a new movie in that style.
Yeah. And Jane, I know you kind of answered.
Unequivocally, yes.
Yes.
They finally, after being disappointed so many times by adaptations of things that I loved when I was a kid, this movie got it right.
Yes.
I enjoyed every second of it. If they keep the same formula, but if they keep the same team behind doing another one, I'll go see it in theaters. Absolutely.
Great point. Yeah. Fantastic. Jack.
I'm definitely not opposed. They have me more interested in if this isn't like the original movie series that came before it, where it was just very disjointed and nothing felt connected. Like, I'm legitimately interested in the timeline of what happens with it now. So, like, if a sequel came out for this movie, I would be like, okay, if it's following the timeline of where the last one left off, yeah, I would want to know. I would want to see where the story goes. If they make it a continuation and not just another one-off Transformers where now this new thing's happening and fuck everything you heard before because new Transformers.
Yeah. And
you know.
Michael Bay certainly did that.
Yeah, and you know, like, that is one thing, and I forgot to mention it earlier, but that's one thing this movie did very right for me, was it got me invested in the world and the overall story enough that I
can't read your writing.
I could definitely see myself being interested in more.
And it's cool because Bumblebee has always been a fan favorite of Transformer fans.
Yeah.
But this is the first movie where we are given reason to truly care for Bumblebee. Even when he was with Shia LaBeouf, there was no character to him.
He was quippy.
He was
was
quirky and he
yeah.
was a comedic and he was silent. But I know we're kind of strapped for time, so we're going to go to Dice.
It's good. Honestly, no. I have no interest continuing on with the series unless the sequel ends up on the movie reviews again. And it's personally because, again, I don't care about giant robots. It's fair. Not my thing. And as funny as John Cena was, as great of an actress as, what's her name? Haley Steinfeld was. Again, that amazing actress. There were parts in the movie where I was legitimately bored. I am not a big fan of the coming-of-age films that this obviously is. It was a mix of E.T. and Iron Giant for me, and I was like, I've seen this story, and it's overdone for me. I just want something else.
That's interesting as someone who likes Studio Ghibli as much as you do.
I love Studio Ghibli, but
that's all that is coming-of-age movies.
You're right. You're really right. But they do it different. They do it very different.
Your opinion is not any less valid.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
But they do it very different. But I'm just
another studio does it right for you. So that part of filmmaking is content because it has been fulfilled somewhere else.
You should make a Studio Ghibli movie for yours.
Live action, My Neighbor Totoro. I'm all on.
Wait, what is the studio, Chia?
Is it Gilby?
No.
Ghibli?
Salmon. Yeah, it's Ghibli.
Salmon.
But no, it's just like I said, it's not my thing. It's I'm not mad I watched it. I'm happy I got to experience one finally, and I kind of get the idea of who Optimus. I don't really know who Optimus Prime is. I guess I got to know who Bumblebee is, which is the one I've heard the most about since the Michael Bay films hit, and it's cool. But like I said, the movie wasn't without its faults.
Yeah, absolutely. If we're going to talk about faults, I want to bring up Jeff's favorite, and that is the moped bike thing that is there conveniently.
It's the moped of convenience.
The moped of convenience. So there's a scene where the mom steals Bumblebee and to go take a dog to the vet, and she's riding her motorbike that she's been driving around the whole movie, and she catches up to the mom and she makes her stop the car and drops the bike on the ground, gets in the car and drives off. Never packs the bike up.
But it shows up.
And then later on in the movie, I was like, man, I have a note. She says she just leaves her bike. And then the mom says nothing about leaving her bike, even though it's been her bike for a while now. And then later on, she just has it again.
You know what? At the very least, they could have shown, because it makes you think, how is the mom getting home? On the moped. I want to see that mom fucking try to drive a moped.
The mom moves over in the passenger seat and
oh really?
Charlie drives.
Clearly, Bumblebee's hand
but
reaches
you know what?
out.
After that scene, she's at the beach and the mom and the dog are gone, so they must have went back and got the bike and
Bullshit.
But
don't lead me to believe that. Look, cover up your loose ends.
I know I'm kind of the devil's advocate.
I know it's a nitpick, but that bugs
no,
me.
it is. I'm always so forgiving of things like this in films because I know there's movies that I love that bullshittery happens like this all the time, and you just say, okay.
But there's movies I love where I go, why did that happen? I will call out the bullshit in my movies. I'm not that much of a hypocrite.
I suppose it's all about how much suspension of disbelief you have in that moment. Because if you
for
don't
me,
give
a giant robot movie,
bike,
my suspension of disbelief, I'm going to be lenient.
You tell me it's because Bumblebee picked it up. Tell me that wouldn't have been funny as shit to see him driving down the road with him holding the moped. That would have been a beautiful, funny shot in continuity.
That would have been a great way to end that scene.
Right,
and we would have
go to the beach.
As the bike was later.
Instead of just hard
cutting. All right, we got
away.
one last question.
This one is not really a question. We don't have to make a big thing of this. When we look at, I feel like in the current pop culture market, everything 80s right now is defined by Stranger Things. Yeah. Stranger Things' entire aesthetic is just all about hardcore 80s. I mean, it's everything stereotype of the 80s. And let's blow it up and make it a bigger stereotype than what it was. Bumblebee doesn't do that, I think. Bumblebee feels very natural.
I completely agree.
And that's what I was wondering if anyone would agree with that. Because, yes, stylistically it works for Stranger Things. That's what it is. But I think a lot of other media are guilty of it. While Bumblebee managed to make it feel like even though it was 1987, it never distracted me. Like, oh my god, they're only doing that because it's 80s. Oh, she's popping in cassette tapes and stuff. They're watching VHSs. It never felt forced or look, it's the 80s, so we're doing this, giving a sly smirk to the a wink.
That's why I had my note in the beginning about the music.
Yeah,
because the music was super timely. That was the music of the times, and that was a lot of the stuff that was probably popular. and it wasn't the typical like synthwave style of like boo 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 doo boo doo boo 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 doo boo doo boo boo. You know, and like it was legitimately pop music of the time, and it was relevant. It was incredibly relevant, and I think that they kept the 80s aesthetic and vibe without shoveling it down your face so much to where it was just like, oh, yep, this is, of course they'll do that because this is an 80s movies and that's what 80s movies do. It felt like you were really getting a solid look in. It was like you were looking through a window into the time period and how honest people were living their lives at the time. Mm-hmm. That was my take from it. And the music helped so much with that.
Absolutely. I went crazy because my top Spotify stations are probably 80s rock, 80s synth pop, 80s rock ballads, and I'm like, I love it. 80s metal. And as soon as, what was it, like the first song we get is a Smith song, and I was like, oh! And then Duran Duran was on when she's fixing getting the stuff out of the boats, and I was like, I was loving every
Bon
moment of
Jovi
that
showed
soundtrack.
up in one of the Bon Jovi songs showed up, and that's what made me go, yeah, okay, this isn't the typical soundtrack anymore.
That moment for me was the Phil Collins song.
But but I didn't really notice it. Like you guys were saying, they don't shovel it down your throat. I didn't notice it until I started picking up on the music, and I was like, oh, okay.
Because they weren't your typical picks.
If we're going on music alone, the Wants to Rule the World scene.
Yeah.
That is the only one where I went, okay.
Of course.
Nice field shot, good happy moment. Wants to rule. And that's like the most popular one of all the ones they played. And that one is actually the one that kind of felt the most forced. So it almost is like the further away you get from the really popular, overplayed 80s songs, the more natural it does feel and makes the 80s movie not feel like it's shoving down my throat.
I did love the Rick roll.
Yeah, the fucking Rick
That
was
was
funny.
so-
And I love that it only lasted 5 seconds.
Yeah,
It wasn't
they
a
knew.
house.
They were like, we just got to touch on it. It'll be hilarious if we don't
Spit it
ever
out
do
and was
it.
like, no.
We're above that in this movie.
The scene that you were speaking of, where they're driving down the road in the Beetle, and everyone wants to rule the world is playing. I feel like that is like a kind of scene that is pulled from movies like Perks of Being a Wallflower, where it is just like it is like the word I'm looking for. It like expounds on the feeling of being free after you have lived a life of like having to adhere to someone else's whims for so long. It's like breaking out of childhood almost, where you have just the beautiful open sky, the clear road ahead of you, everything's perfect. You roll down the convertible and you stick your head out and you say, "Look at me, world, this is me."
Yeah.
And it touched on that very well, like I was saying about the 80s movies. And what Jack was saying, I also agree with. This is not, they don't equate the 80s to synthwave. And this is coming from someone who fucking loves synthwave. If they would have had a bunch of crazy over-the-top sci-fi references to the 80s with people with fucking bright pink mohawks like Liberty Spikes and like techno rave shit, and like, I would have loved that, but that is absolutely not what this movie was going for whatsoever. It wanted to have heart over being hyperbole. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly what a lot of 80s XB kind of films go for. It is just a hyperbole of the 80s and its venture into technology.
Heart over hyperbole.
So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to, my comment will be that I think, and it's something I said last night, I think, and Colby touched on this, I think this movie is a celebration of movies that our generation has specifically grown up with. Late 80s, early 90s films. I do see this as a celebration. It's not for everyone. Because if you're not a Transformers fan, you could certainly get this message in another film that would appeal maybe better to you, like Jeff. And so that's completely understandable. However, something I would like to end these reviews on is real fast. We'll go in order from Dice to Xander. Should others watch this movie? Dice.
Yeah, give it a watch.
Yeah.
Don't watch it twice.
Yep. Jack.
Yeah, I agree. Because there's a lot of wholesome messages that you don't get in a lot of movies like this nowadays. And there's a lot to take away from it.
All right. Jane.
Watch it, it's worth it.
Yeah, I'm with Jane. Chia.
If you're looking for a wholesome movie to watch with your family, yes, give it a try. If you're looking for an action-packed romp through Cybertron, you might want to give it a miss until another movie comes out like that.
Hint, hint. They're supposedly making 2 more. And Xander.
I feel yes. Everybody has stated why I already said yes. So
Yeah, I mean, you
I'd
don't
say
have to
give
go
it a try.
into
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So if you made it this far into this podcast, and you didn't care about any of the spoilers and you haven't seen the movie, go give it a watch. Hopefully you enjoy it. Leave a comment below what you think if you've already saw the movie. Please, we would love to hear what you thought. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, doesn't matter. Art is I lost my wording.
Subjective.
Subjective.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no one should be ashamed. So thank you so much for joining us on this one. From now on, these will be done in video form, and exciting news to the guys. And I say that ironically. Our next film, be on the lookout, will be Shin Godzilla. Ooh, it's anime Godzilla the movie.
Well, you got me at half chop.
You're ready to see that Shin Godzilla? Hit that like button and remember to subscribe, guys.
Absolutely.
I love
And
Godzilla
hey,
shins.
yeah.
Listen,
And if you have a movie preference and you really like what we're doing, please give us an option.
ring that bell or I'll fucking kill you.
Oh, no.
I'm kidding.
Don't
Time
you-
out.